All right, so we have after a crash.
You're good.
So you see the jacket's been ripped open, all the...
No, do not take his helmet off.
Okay, I agree with that. Bike's on fire, it is what it is. That is level 1, level 2 road rash. Level 3, you're gonna see actual missing pieces of flesh. But you see how it looks like a terrible burn? So thermal burns from the fire, right? But then we have friction burns, which turns into thermal, right? If you ever you start feeling heat, it's kind of the same thing. You're ripping off some skin, just the top layer when you're doing that. But now imagine going over basically a cheese grater of asphalt or a grinder.
Hey, you're good.
So that's pretty painful.
You're good.
Up and over.
Father, I pray that you please watch over everybody. Please watch over. Get him in full recovery. Keep everybody else safe. Get him to drink water. He needs to. He's pale. Just take
Okay.
it slow. Take it slow. Are you good? It's okay.
Let's take a look at, let's get an assessment here. So what we have here at the beginning, we have a motorcyclist that crashed. We don't know how they crashed. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The main thing here is that we have somebody that is on the ground and injured. Now, what do we do? First, we have to remain calm, ensure our own safety. So making sure, hey, is anybody calling 911? Like, that's the thought that you have in your head. Now, you could be the one calling, okay? So now that's the outcome, the thing that we need to get done is done because you called. Or you can grab somebody or point to them. It's like, I need you to call 911. He's like, somebody else is calling. It's like, no, I want you to. And if dispatch says, hey, we've gotten multiple reports, thank you very much. We have people on the way. They'll say that. But if you're the one, if you're like, hey, you call 911, it's like, oh, multiple people have. And then you do call for some reason, like, okay, cool. Thank you for letting us know. Nobody's called. So you have that bystander effect when it comes to, somebody else will call. No, point to someone, grab them, tell them specifically, make sure they actually call or you call. Now, ensure your own safety. We're on a road, a highway where there's a lot of traffic. Thankfully, you can see traffic kind of moving over. But I would have somebody down the road trying to direct traffic into a different lane. Okay, you can either put your motorcycle in that lane or you could do something. You don't stand in the lane, but you always want to pay attention for your own safety, but at least try to get people away. Because some cars, they're not going to be paying attention, and they're going to just be running through everybody here. Now you have multiple people, including yourself, injured. Now, stopping any major bleeds. So when we see this coming up right here, I am checking his legs, his arms, his back. He's already on his side, so I can check his back right away. Checking his abdomen, checking his chest, and then just getting a good visual around his face and his neck. If I see any blood, just like that's a lot of blood. That means it's a major bleed. If you have that initial thought in your head, that looks like a lot of blood. That's a major bleed. So you have 3 things you can do. Direct pressure, you can apply a tourniquet if it's an arm or a leg, or you can pack the wound if it's in a junctional spot. Okay, junctional spots can be like up here in the neck or in like the growing area a little bit. So you're really gonna have to pack the wound. Now, the whole stop major bleeds is basically the skills you learned in stop the bleed classes. So I highly recommend taking a stop the bleed class. Now, when it comes to the backside, now this is a rescue card, which if you guys don't know, I've been including this in any physical book that you guys buy on the store. So if you got any book, I've included this as a free gift. I haven't told anybody, so just for you guys, so you guys get to know. So if you want to get a free card, you get the book. So the backside, head injury symptoms, spinal cord, or shock symptoms. These are things that you can't do anything for on scene, but these are things that you should be paying attention to, and it's more of a reason that they need to go to the hospital if they have any of these. The only thing you can do is lay them down, stopping external bleeding, and try to keep them warm. That's really it. That's all you can do when it comes to those symptoms. Now, right here, like I said, check for major bleeds.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, so he has a full face helmet. We're about to get into the whole idea of like, don't take the helmet off. If he's breathing, don't even mess with anything. If he's not breathing and he's got a 3/4 helmet, half helmet, or no helmet, don't take the helmets off. Don't worry about the helmet at all. If he's not breathing and he has a full face helmet like this, that's when you do take the helmet off and you take the risk of a possible cervical spine injury, because if it's hard to do it. You'd never know if there was already one there or not. You don't know if your actions will actually cause a cervical spine injury. But if you don't do a single thing and they're not breathing and they have a full face helmet and you're worried about their neck, they're going to die if they're not breathing. So the only time you're taking the helmet off, if it's the full face helmet and they're not breathing, you take it off. And the reason why you take it off is so you can do rescue breaths. So think about that. If you're uncomfortable doing rescue breaths or not breathing, don't have a full face helmet on, just don't take the helmet off. It really comes down to what is your secondary action is, I'm going to breathe now for this person. And so if you get a trauma kit, so Tremoto is a great company. I've met with Ethan. We did a full MSU course at Michigan State University. We did a full rescue course. Amazing guy. He has his own kits, and I believe. Why am I even saying it? I have one right here. There is no belief. It comes with a CPR shield. So if you're worried about blood and grossness in your mouth, this is one of the kits that he sells. If you're worried about grossness and stuff, you can put the shield on. It's a one-way valve, so you can breathe for them, so you're not going to get vomit and gross stuff up into your mouth. So that's how you can do rescue breaths. But the only time you take it off, a helmet off, is if it's a full face. If it's a 3/4 helmet, don't need to because it's open. If it's a modular helmet, just pop the modular part up. Okay, so that's it. So I like that he said this.
Don't take his stuff off. No, do not take his helmet off. No.
So don't take it off. Never remove a wrecked rider's helmet. I don't believe in nevers. Because like I just said, if he's not breathing, you remove the wrecked rider's helmet to breathe for them.
Do not take his helmet off.
So the bike's on fire, it's destroyed. So I wanted to point this out, is that there's no major bleeds. It looks gnarly, it looks gross, it looks painful. It's gonna be painful. It's bad, but this road rash is not life-threatening. Okay, he's not gonna die from that. So, but I want to point out why we wear full gear, acquire and use personal protective equipment as smart riders, is that all of this would not have happened if he wore a motorcycle jacket. Now, if the jacket split open because of the zipper or whatever got broke, maybe you'll have a little bit, but it's not going to be this. It is not going to be this. And that's the thing, is that you're trying to mitigate as much injury with motorcycle gear, because motorcycling is inherently dangerous just because of the risks that we're having to take because we don't have a cage or seatbelts or airbags, any of that stuff. So at least mitigate some of it or most of it. But you notice how the jacket just got tore up? The road needs to have, not the road. The road's going to do this. Your motorcycle gear has abrasion-resistant material. This is not abrasion-resistant material. It's fashion material. It will rip. So he's going to have, these are basically, this is a first-degree and second-degree burns, basically. And that's painful. Extreme first-degree burns are more painful than second-degree because second-degree, they burned off your nerve endings. So this is extremely painful. And so what I'd be looking for, because you get distracted, I'm just going into firefighter mode right now, firefighter EMT mode, is that you get distracted of how nasty this is. But once if he has a laceration on his arm, on his gut right there, maybe he has a nasty laceration right here, and it's just bleeding. It's just bleeding. It's just bleeding. But all you're doing is paying attention to this. That's called a distracting injury. So as firefighters and EMTs and in the first responder world, is that as soon as we see this, we're like, noted, let's check everything else. That looks gnarly. Let's check everything else. Because you can get distracted and focused only on this, like target fixation. You see how target fixation goes for everything here. You can target fixate on this, but the problem is really the massive laceration where he's bleeding out that you need to stop. Oh, need to focus. So you need to pay attention to that. So don't get distracted by that. Just note it. Pretty gross. Now, part of the Tremoto kit is that you actually get some amazing shears, some amazing trauma shears. What you can do, and you get a whole bunch of stuff. You check them out. It's literally Tremoto. So just type in Tremoto. I used to have them in my store, but I think it's just better to send you guys directly to them. I used to get like a commission, but I want you guys to go straight to them. They're amazing people. But you get trauma shears, and what I would be doing is cutting off his jacket, and so I can check his skin for any lacerations. I used to have my own kits. Elad, thank you very much. And then same thing for his pants. Now you can cut. Here's a quick little tidbit, and I wish I could show you more, but we did a full course on it. So pretend, oh, my arms look juicy. So pretend these are the pants too, right? So down here. So what I would do is I would cut along the side. So I cut along the side here and up the side here. Because when you do that, let's say you cut it up here, you can open it, look, and then you can close it back. So that way, if you cut up here, right, up the center, and it's open, and you try to close it, and it just like falls apart, it doesn't keep the modesty of the rider. So if it's, we typically do that for women because we don't want them to, be exposed everywhere. We do the nice thing, cut it off the side, open it up, close it, so we can keep modesty. That's what we do there. So that's what you can do there. Pretty bad.
Good, bro. You're good. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray that you please.
I like that he prayed. That's really nice.
Everybody else safe. Get him to drink water. He needs to. He's
okay. Right there, drinking water, and he's pale. So we can take some of the assessment of this. Why would he be pale? Right in the comments. Why do you think he'd be pale? 3, 2, 1. Drop of blood pressure. His blood pressure's dropped. Now it could be neurogenic shock. So Ninja 4, you got it. It could be neurogenic shock. So having a head injury can cause the rest of the body to not function very well. And that's what controls the heart and the blood vessels and all that. So it could be neurogenic shock, or it could be hypovolemic shock. So hypo, low, volemic is basically volume. So low volume, low blood volume shock. So he could be bleeding out. You don't know. So that's why you want to check. But if it's a neurogenic shock, you can't do much for that. But that's probably why he's pale. So that's one of the symptoms here, right? So, and it could just be pale because of an adrenaline dump. So adrenaline, when it spikes, your blood vessels constrict, your breathing rate increases, your blood pressure increases because of the constriction, your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate to get more information because now you're ready to fight or flight. You're ready to run or you're ready to fight. And then when it drops, when that hormone drops and gets out of your system, what happens? It compensates the other way. It dilates your blood vessels, right? It dilates your blood vessels. It lowers your breathing. You start to get sleepy. Anybody ever had a crazy adrenaline shock or adrenaline, and then all of a sudden it dropped and you're like, I want to go to sleep. Like I'm exhausted. So that's what's happening right here. He's having that. And so if his blood pressure drops from the adrenaline, because it's, his blood vessels are big. Now imagine if he had, here's the thing. Imagine if he had a big laceration and his blood pressure's dropping because of the adrenaline dump, and he's bleeding out. Now he has no volume for a bigger tube, bigger pipe in his body. So for those of you that are plumbers or know anything about hydraulics, if you have a giant tube or a big pipe and no water in it, the pump doesn't work because the pump needs to have some kind of pressure to keep going. So his heart is the pump, blood vessels are the pipe, blood is the water. And so if he's dumping down, he's going to lose volume and he's going to probably pass out. Okay. And when you pass out, your body resets. Okay. So this is why on the back of a card, if they have a head injury symptom, spinal cord injury, or shock symptoms, lay them down, because you don't want them standing around, walking around, and then passing out and then falling from standing, collapse, hit their head on the ground. Now they have a secondary traumatic brain injury. So that's why after a crash, you lay them down, because if they pass out, at least they're laying down passed out, not standing up passing out. So if they're laying down passed out, okay, that sucks, something to note. Their body's going to reset. And if they're laying down, guess what? When they have that low blood pressure, when they're laying down, guess how easy it is to get blood to the brain, because it's on a flat surface versus trying to pump it vertically against gravity. You see how there's so much involved? So much involved. Now, giving water to somebody, I wouldn't do that. We were trained not to. I'm sure there might be new stuff out there nowadays. I would not give water to a patient like this before the hospital. And here's why. If he needs surgery, if he's going to the hospital and needs to get surgery, they're going to have to do some anesthesia and whatnot. Having fluids and stuff and food inside your stomach can cause complications and aspiration when they're under anesthesia. So that's why they ask you, like, hey, if you ever had surgery, don't eat or drink for the 12 hours prior before surgery, because they're going to either have to pump your stomach out or, you're going to aspirate. So I don't like to give water. I mean, I'll give a sip, but we're not chugging it. I'll give you a little sip. And it's not because look how pale he is. He needs water. He's dehydrated. immediately somehow. No, he had an accident. He's pale because his body is shunting blood from his skin to his internal organs to keep them alive. The body's like, I don't care about your skin. You're going to be pale, cool, sweaty after an accident like this because there's no blood flow basically to your skin. So it just dumps all the sweat in the sweat glands. You're going to look pale because there's no blood basically in your dermis skin, and it's shunting everything to the vital organs. So that's why you look that way.
Just take it slow. Take it slow. Are you good?
So, I like that he's checking on everybody. So that was just my little tidbit. So if you like that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and take a slice of pizza and check out Tremoto.